Hello there. I'd like to welcome you to the Redesign Blab. This is actually kind of our first blab. We had a little test blab yesterday, but that doesn't really count. So if you're interested in talking branding and design, hop on in. And I will be right back. Thought Craig Burton would be here, but I guess he's waking up there in New Zealand still. So who wants to hop in and join me? I'm just going to work away here until somebody nudges me to come and grab a seat.
Title is that I'm a graphic designer, first and foremostly, that specializes in a specific area. I'm not a marketer. We're all kind of marketers to a certain extent, but I'm not a specialized marketing person. And one of the things that one of the areas that I think would be awesome is if marketers and designers worked closer. And there is this sort of a much more streamlined approach, because marketers are really good at addressing those areas of where to sell and what have you, and how to do those sorts of things. And and designers, kind of come in and they put a really awesome picture on it, and make it look fantastic. And I think it would be great if marketers and designers had a closer working relationship. I think they're both worth their weight in gold.
Oh, absolutely. It should be a partnership, between marketers and designers and a client. Sometimes marketers aren't involved, and we wear the hat of marketers, work with our clients. But other times, definitely, we need marketers to help us with those bigger, more, the types of projects that have a lot more going on, maybe than we're equipped to handle from a marketing standpoint. So, yeah, it definitely takes that. And I think there's a lack of understanding there also, that marketers could benefit themselves too and their clients by understanding a little bit better about what design is. Design is not just putting, surface decoration onto something or coming in at the last minute. It's really strategy, as much as anything else, it's strategy. And we do things in a visual way, and part of that is making things look nice too. But it's not about that. The end game is really serving the business needs, whatever those might be. So going back to what Mary started talking about, target market and all those things are critical.
Yeah, I also think design is also part of user experience. It's providing a good user experience. So it's about making things look good, but it's also about making things functional, right? I mean, that's a big functional, yeah. And that's a part I think marketers might not understand as much, is that a designer can play a key role in helping marketers do that and helping businesses do that.
Absolutely. I mean, there's so much complicated information out there usually that companies are trying to express. And what a designer is able to do is really organize that and edit that in a way that, is distilled down to its essence also. So it communicates. It's communication. So as we put a visual, spin on that, it really starts with being able to organize information. And that's actually always been true throughout the history of graphic design, you know, whether it's print brochures or, you know, signage, anything you can think of, digital, you know, everything that's digital, the websites and email campaigns and all that. It's communication, and designers are able to, you know, take this sort of chaotic world of content and make sense of it so that others are able to make sense of it.
Yeah.
The other area, you know, like talking about creating order out of chaos and communicating you know, something that is needed, addressing the pain point. The other area, which I really love addressing, which is really kind of quite important to my area, is this sense of pride. This sense of pride in purpose and place. And we talk about logos and we talk about visual branding. And that helps to address that need. That you know, as small business owners, as you know, schools in my case, where the visual brand, the logo, the identity, and excuse my washed out face, gosh.
The sun's coming up even higher, I see.
I'll come closer. The visual brand helps to address that sense of understanding and pride, being proud about our business, our school, our company, you know, what we do as for a job is really important, because if we're not proud of our image, how can we kind of, you know, how can we expect to kind of you know, send that signal out? You know, when we're sending out crappy looking documentation and we say we're one thing, yet when they have a look at some of our brochures, or they have a look at our website, or they have a look at our logo, and we say we're something, but yet we're what's the word I'm trying to think of? We're
projecting.
We're projecting an image of amateur and of a place that we're not actually proud of. And I think that the brand, the visual brand, really addresses that we're proud of who we are. We understand who we are because our visual brand helps project exactly who we are. And our audience may not necessarily understand who we are straight away, but we understand it. We understand the story, the message, the you know, our core values, our you know, what we understand about our company, and we're projecting that, and we create interest, and we start from that point, I think.
Yeah, I think what you're talking about too is first impressions. They have always mattered.
Yeah.
And a business usually, you know, isn't always done face to face. Everything that you're putting out there, all those touch points, all your marketing touch points, communications, what have you, are what people see, and that's where they get their first impression of you. So to me, it's like, you know, very obvious that I think you'd want to button that up and have that spot on, because that's sort of, you know, the handshake when you're not there to shake hands yourself.
Yeah. So I think, you know, Mary, I would love to see marketers and designers working closer and just supporting each other more. I think in the social media environment, I think there's been a little bit of a dissonance between the marketing crowd and the design crowd, and it's kind of and especially on Google Plus. And I think it's a little bit sad, because I see both groups being just, you know, providing such awesome skills to businesses, and they're both needed.
Yeah, well, I think one thing is the level, how big is an organization? Like I sat on I did corporate marketing for a lot of companies, and I worked with designers, and I worked with all, you know, freelancers, and I worked with ad agencies. smaller ad agencies.
Mm.
And I thought, my job was to give them as much material and research so they could understand the target market and the business that they were designing for. But I think when you start working with a smaller company, they don't have that marketing down. They either try to do the marketing themselves and they don't have the skill set to really do a good job at it. And, it's just a problem with a startup or a small company, right? They don't have resources. In which case, I think they should get a freelancer to help them. At least
I was going to say that too. Yeah.
Information down, because that can save them so much money with it.
Yeah. Right.
Like, that will probably get rid of a ton of rounds of design rounds. And I thought, as a marketer, that was one of my jobs. I was like, how can I be efficient for my company? And it's not by meddling in the design. It's about giving the designer everything that the designer needs. Everything, that was my job.
Well, that's what a project manager does too.
Yeah.
And that's always sorely lacking in the types of projects you're talking about with the smaller, maybe independent companies or small marketers, I tend to take a lot of that on myself just because, it's critical to the job. Again, it's all part of the organization factor, I think.
Right. So do I, because someone comes to me with a website and their marketing isn't done. I mean, it hasn't even started. And I'm like,
right.
That's just,
and then I think it's our role too, to back them up then, and say, whoa, wait a minute. We're not quite ready to start on that website.
Exactly.
This is what we do first. Yeah. Which goes back to the original question I kind of threw out there. How can we help clients or companies or solo entrepreneurs? How can we help them help us create better work for them? It's not about providing us with sketches or wondering what it's going to look like or so many times people, the first thing they say is, oh, I hate the color, green, but I love blue, and I'm like, okay, that's nice, but that really kind of has nothing to do with the project right now, and might never have to do with the project because, again, it goes to the target audience also. What are we going to do that's going to appeal to the target audience? Not necessarily what appeals to you, unfortunately, the client. Yes, the customer is always right, whatever, but and they're paying the bills, but it's not about you. It's about your target audience. What's going to appeal to your target audience and what makes sense for the job. So.
And I think, Mary, you're talking about using freelancers and startups. One thing that I talk with my clients about always is the fact, and you've heard it a million times, that developing a visual brand is not a sprint; it's a marathon.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like that you've got a business and you need a logo and you need this, that, and a website and blah 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 blah, and then it comes back to this strategy, developing the most important things first, and setting a budget and setting a realistic budget, because good freelancers aren't cheap, and I'm certainly, I wouldn't consider myself a cheap designer by any stretch of the imagination, but what is important is setting budgets and having a realistic budget for the various parts of the project. So if it's a website or if it's a logo, but not stressing about getting everything done at once. So we develop a logo and a website, and it might just be that's that part for this year. So we get the website and then we market the heck out of it.
Mm-hmm.
The parameters are so important, and the budget that you raised there, Craig, is critical.
But it being a realistic budget and saying, so okay, this is what we've got, and okay, this is where you need to be to have the right budget to develop the kind of image that you need, and then this is what you need for marketing. For the content marketing, for the social media marketing, for whatever marketing it that's required, and then that's it for this year. And then we look at next year. So it's taking baby steps. It might just be that you desperately need to get that website up, but you haven't quite got the logo completed.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and yeah, the logo is really, really important, but the website, you know, it might be that we need to get an image up there, and we convey the fact that, hey, we're in the process. I don't know. Maybe that's the wrong way to go.
I think that's the right way to go. You know, it's good to get an idea as to what the scope is of the total project before we proceed, and then we can also, you know, help guide our clients maybe to the best way to use that money. I just, you know, I don't always have too much success taking that route. They always want to know what it costs, you know. And that's where trust comes in, which is a whole kind of separate conversation also, which only happens, I think, with clients who you've worked with before, worked with for a while. You know, knowing the parameters, knowing the rules of the game before we start heading onto the field, you know, is critical. You need to know what the rules are before you can, you know, find the best path through there and score the winning goal for your client, to use that metaphor still. So yeah, what you're saying is really, really important, Craig, I think.
Andrew, I think Andrew's struggling to get his camera
Andrew's
going.
kind of having the same issue, I think, that Mary was having.
Now, what I suggest...
I tried to log in with Firefox, and I never saw a share option.
Right.
So I went to Chrome, and it was fine. And I saw the button up top, and I clicked it and came in.
Yeah, it's easy, eh?
So, Andrew, if you can try Chrome or a different... and
make sure your camera and your microphone settings allow Blab to use you. Yeah, here we go. So he'll be back. So Mary, tell us a little bit about yourself and what do you do? Because, you know, I've seen you around.
So I work with small businesses to help them with website design and digital marketing. Right now, I'm focusing on helping them with a bigger picture of how can you use your digital marketing and your website to address your business goals, bring in revenue, save money, and, you know, find prospects, find sales leads, things like that. So, you know, I can do content marketing, and I specialize in WordPress websites. I've worked with Paul on a couple of projects, including my own. It's wonderful. So I work with designers. You know, I've worked with a bunch of designers to do the look and feel and the logo for the websites. And then I help put that all together. But I end up being a marketing coach a lot, you know, because it begins right in the beginning, where I ask them what their business goals are and how they want their website and their online presence to meet those business goals. And a lot of times I help them define that and define their unique value proposition and their target audience. Some of them don't quite understand their target audience, or they understand it a little, but they don't understand the importance of the entire team understanding what that is.
Yep.
Yeah, I try to convince people to test too, which it's funny because I get a lot of pushback from that. But, you know, I worked in a hospital as a marketer, and it's really easy to test. It's just you walk outside, you give some people some content, and you ask them what, you know, what am I trying to say here, and you get feedback. It's really not that hard. I don't find it to be. So I really get people, especially with their content. I ask them, have you tried running this by your clients, your target market, anybody that's related to your business, right? And get some feedback on it. So I try to do that a lot with clients.
They're going to test one way or another anyway, right? It's just that it's better to do it up front and beforehand rather than later.
Exactly. And they think
find out the hard way.
This elaborate A/B testing or something like that. And I'm like, no, get 3 people in your target market and ask them about the different logos that you were presenting. Because again, you guys know it's not, we want our clients to be happy, but it's really about their audience. So if they select a logo that they love, but their audience doesn't understand, then we really, I mean, we have to be honest and go back to the drawing board, right? And I used to do that with newspaper ads. I just throw it in front of people and say, what do you think? You know? And
I have to say, I'm a little skeptical though that is going to provide you accurate feedback, because it's not going to be a scientifically produced, experiment, or it's not going to be. I think if you're doing it yourself, there's no way that you can't in some way also influence the results, and then you also have to interpret the feedback that you're getting. And if it's a very small pool of people that you're, testing this with, that can also not provide, the most accurate results. So I've seen this happen so many times. And also people, sometimes things have to grow on you a little bit also. And then once they do, and people really get what's happening, it can be, it can have a stronger influence on the market. So people are used to what they're used to seeing. And a lot of times, people aren't so ready for the more out there sort of ideas, or the more cutting edge sort of things that might make perfect sense for the market. So it just starts to raise all these questions. Now, I'm not saying it's not good to, show it to a few respected people or whatever that you really trust, but I just, would suggest people are very careful with, who they show it to and how they go about that, because they might get misleading results.
Yeah.
Craig, do you have any opinions on that?
Oh, you talking to me?
Yeah, Craig.
Oh, hold the microphone like that. So when you're talking, I'll do that, Paul. Sorry, say that again.
That's Craig.
Oh.
That's a go. Get the camera there. Craig, you're on.
Look, I come from the point of view of if with my clients, and maybe I'm not in the real world. I don't know. In real world in the sense of the like business or whatever. But when it comes to a logo, I come from the position of that the logo has to mean something to you as a business, or as a person if you're running your own business.
Yeah.
And represent the try to capture the essence of what your business is all about. Now, your customers may not actually understand, and they probably won't understand the rationale behind the design decisions that you make with your logo. But what's important is, in my opinion, is that logo means something to you, and it represents it, or it tries to capture the essence of the type of business that you are in your logo. And sure, not all logos kind of do that. There are lots of plain logos that are say just a nice type or whatever, but still they're capturing something. And like for example, it might be a law firm, and they're capturing that essence of quality of service and professionality. But for other logos and the logo symbols, there's a bit of a story and a bit of a message in those logos, and I do that a lot, and that message then becomes unbundled for the client in the website through the content, and that's where that unique brand identity comes out, with in the sense that you're unbundling what your business is all about to your customers. And so if I presented three options to some customers, and they like or don't like, they may not actually understand what's gone into the rationale behind that image. That's sort of where I come from, and there's almost a little bit of sort of surprise. There's that element of surprise in the sense of unbundling the brand identity. That it's kind of it's new, it's different, it's fresh, and you're starting to and it's capturing the essence in a visual sense of what your business is all about. It might be fun, it might be quirky, it might be of a very serious nature to do with some serious issues. That's what that logo is trying to do. And customers may not necessarily understand that. And so I wouldn't necessarily go to a customer audience with a visual brand. What I would go to them with is perhaps some names. So it might be the name of your company. What does that kind of mean to you? What do you get out of that? And the language is important, I think, in terms of, yeah.
And I have a question about logos. Then. Is a logo supposed to communicate what a business does, or is it just, I understand that it's got to communicate the essence of the brand, but it does also does it also communicate what the business does?
Yeah. Yep.
It can, sure.
The reason why I brought up the whole testing thing is because I've seen logos from a couple clients that I worked with, and they did it themselves. Okay, so let's put it in that perspective. But I didn't really understand what the logo was communicating to me. Like, I saw the brand, but I didn't understand what the brand did. And that's what I mean by showing it to people. And that's the only, that's why I brought that up, was because sometimes.
No, sure. And I'd love to hear more about how that goes for you, and how you make that work for you, because I just haven't been able to make it work. And I find when people do it, it just sort of throws a real wrench into the process. But to your question now, I think what's more important really is capturing the spirit of a company, not necessarily literally explaining what a company does. And we have to also remember that a logo rarely, just stands alone by itself. It's usually in context of other things. From a tagline that goes with it, a lot of times I'll suggest a tagline that, plays off of it and maybe further helps encapsulate what they're all about. And then beyond that, the context of the page it's on or the banner that it's within and all that, all of that is part of the brand identity, not just the logo. And when the logo does appear by itself, I don't think it has to do everything. I think it needs to, more importantly, capture the essence of the spirit of the company and be clear and legible. And then over time, hopefully, it also garners recognition. Now, a smaller company maybe doesn't have the budget or the resources to keep, putting enough marketing out there where that type of thing is going to happen. A Coca-Cola, obviously, you see the color and you already know what it is. But if you're a smaller operation, that kind of thing is kind of a lot to expect. So, I think, again, you try to define that very tight market as best you can. And hopefully within that target market that you keep putting out your messages to, over time, they will recognize you.
Yeah, I agree. And you don't have to develop a logo that's literal. And kind of like, if you work in a hardware store and your logo's a hammer or something like that.
Or a hammer and a screwdriver and fertilizer, and capture the essence of all their different offerings.
A logo design goes much deeper than that. It's trying to capture that essence, and like Paul says, that spirit, but it's just part of the whole. It's the badge. It's a really, really important part of your brand identity, but it's not the entire brand and brand identity. And
good point. I didn't mean to diminish the importance of a logo, because I think that a lot of times it is diminished. People say that.
Yeah, I hear it.
I'm starting to echo. Do you hear that echo? I'm not sure what that is. But a logo is critically important and can also set the precedence for everything that comes after that, depending on, how it's done, or if the logo lends itself to those sorts of things. But a lot of times I feel that, logos are kind of diminished as being, not that important. And I think that they are critically important. It's just that we do have to keep in mind also that they're not the be all end all. They are, they do work in context with other things as well, and evolve over time, as Greg started to hit on too. You have to give room for the brand to kind of breathe, and evolve. And that's exciting, I think a brand that's stagnant is one that makes everything look exactly the same. Some people think that, a consistent brand is one where, the website homepage looks just like the cover of the brochure that they hand out, looks just like the business card, and everything is exactly the same. And I don't think that's true. I think you need to breathe life into the brand also and keep people interested.
And this is where marketing and designers work together. This is where the breath comes into the brand image, the marketers. And it's so important. And I would love to work with more marketers in my job, because I think that they have like yourself, Mary, have a key set of skills that are fundamentally important to any business.
Absolutely. It should be a really tight-knit partnership.
I also think that, back to Greg's point, branding it's a marathon. It's something that is always evolving as a business evolves, and that there's certain things that it would be good to revisit every maybe 2 or 3 years, and like your unique value proposition. And where are you? Like you might be different than you were 2 or 3 years ago. So you revisit those things and you look at them again and make sure that that's sort of steering the ship where you want the ship to go. I think that's, people get busy and they lose track of that. But it's important, because your market changes, your competition changes. So those are big things to revisit. And that's what the marketers do. And then, as things shift, you communicate that to your design team. Yeah. And you bring them into the fold and you tell them about those kind of things, so that you're all working together as a team. Because once you communicate that, this little magic happens where people start to pick things up. Even your designer, right? They'll start picking things up and they'll be like, oh my God, this is perfect for the brand, or this is right for the brand, or, that happens to me a lot. Once I start really getting to know what the customer's all about, like it'll be a couple weeks and I'll keep picking up these little things like, oh, this is perfect for this customer, or this is great for the brand, or so the more.
And that's when it gets really exciting too, and everyone starts getting excited and you start to work off each other. You play off each other, Yeah.
Well, and the thing that's really cool about Paul's group of designer, everybody that hangs out with Paul, is that everyone's involved in social media, and we're doing all kinds of stuff on social media, and that can help our clients, because my clients are always pulling me in. How do you do this on social? How do you get this cover photo up? What do I do with this? And I'm always and they're like, what do you think about this network? And I'm always jumping in and giving them those 2 pieces of advice just because they know I'm active on it and I just have experience. And we all have that kind of experience that we can add value to the whole team that we support.
And another way of looking at that same thing is like, we understand too, what a logo is going to have to do in the real world, how it's going to have to function, whether it's scaled up, really large on some kind of a sign at a conference, or scaled down really, really small, for, profile image on some social media platform. And it's going to appear right next to the comments wherever things are, said. And maybe the person's resolution isn't that well on their screen, or it's going to appear on a mobile device. Obviously, everything we do now appears on a mobile device. So how do you design for that, and you see all the bad work that's out there all the time. Every time you see these avatars or these little icons, profile images that you can't really make out, and they just look like a smudge next to somebody's comment. That's not doing anything for the business, when it could be something you take advantage of to, really hammer home your brand every time it appears, no matter where you might be appearing at the moment.
The other thing that to remember also with your brand, and you talk about breathing life into the brand, and that and the importance of marketers in that is as a as a small business owner, we get tired of looking at ourselves. So we develop a brand identity, and we develop a website, and we just get sick of our own image. But as a person, as a marketer, like yourself, Mary, who's breathing life into the brand, and as designers who are supporting that brand by creating, awesome visuals and awesome supporting material for the marketing, that brand is being received and is being seen by new people all the time. And so while we're becoming sick and tired of how we look, new people are coming on board and seeing it for the very first time and going, hey, these people look really good. They look like they know what they're doing. It resonates with us from a content perspective, and we might check them out.
Yeah. Well, I think if a small business is serious about their business, they need a logo. And I personally don't think it's that much of an investment. When you look at like the mileage you're going to get out of it, it's like,
the mileage is,
you just have to do that.
And what you don't want to do is do something crappy and then over time redo it, or knowing that it needs to be redone, but you've already established this crappy image, and you feel that you're known for your crappy image, and how do you get out from under that? Because then it gets really expensive, because you got to change everything, and depending on what it is, you might have invested in printed literature or signage on a building or what have you. So
I think really also that it's important, for the industry, for the marketing industry and the design industry, to recognize the difference between an experienced person in design or experienced freelancer, in our cases, or experienced small design firm, and their ability to create sophisticated logos. There's a difference between I use the word naivety, and the word and the word is not I'm not trying to sound arrogant or obnoxious or rude or elitist. The word naivety, we use it when we look at art quite a bit, in the sense that some paintings, I guess it's subjective, but there's a naivety associated with design, that when we look at a logo designed by somebody who's not as experienced, they've just started out on their design journey as a graphic designer, they're still trying to figure out things to do with proportion and shape and space and type and positive and negative space and how how things balance or not, depending on what we're trying to achieve with the look. And so it's important that we can find we can see the difference between a designer who is perhaps slightly inexperienced in offering the kinds of services that our businesses require.
Well, I think that's also where marketers can help their clients do a more effective job, by tapping the right resources, and understanding what design brings to the table by just partnering with a good designer. I mean, there's so much to it. It's really hard to kind of, even explain in a 1 hour video here all that it's about. We've hit on so many things already, but we've only scratched the surface. We've talked about, organizing information, capturing the essence of the business, how important first impressions are, the fact that a logo is just, critically important, but just a small part of the overall brand and the brand strategy, and how design is not decorating, it's strategy. And it goes on and on like that, understanding how a logo might have to have different iterations for different purposes. In other words, maybe you have a word mark with an icon attached. So it's a logo type, text, and you have some kind of a graphic icon along with it. And maybe they separate at times, depending on context, or maybe just the icon appears somewhere where it makes sense.
Andrew. Hey, Andrew.
Okay, over. See
I'm
you
a
all
designer.
later.
Of course, got a pencil.
Hey, Andrew, have you got a pencil there? Hey, now do this. Hang on. Now put it out of the screen. Put it out of the screen. No, that way.
Okay.
Hang on. No, take it out of the screen the other way. Other way.
Okay, Andrew,
go the other side. Okay, I'm going to put my.
I don't. This is all. No, this doesn't seem. I need to go that way according to my camera.
Hang on.
Yeah, it appears to be. Like if you hold yours there, we have a whole pencil now, but it's half blue and half yellow. That looks completely wrong from my screen.
Whoa! Check it out. Hang on. Hey, Mary, you got a pencil? Hang on, I'm passing you my pencil, Mary. Hang on, Paul. Oh, here we go.
I have a pencil without an eraser.
Whoa!
See how many mistakes I make.
Hang on, Mary, your turn. Hang on. I want to pass you my pencil. It's going to turn into a pen.
I think everybody's images are different ways round.
I don't know what
I'm bottom right on my screen.
That's what I'm thinking too.
But Craig will be upside down because he's in New Zealand.
Yeah,
you're bottom right on my screen too, actually.
That's what's happening.
Yes, I am. Upper left.
I'm
because
Mary's upper right.
poking
Mary in the upper right quadrant. Okay, I guess it is static.
Yeah.
Andrew,
what do you want to know? I'm a graphic designer from the UK. I've got a day job. I work for the UK Ministry of Defence, and then I do freelance design kind of on the side as a part-time gig, as well as doing that. And I haven't shaved for a few days, so I look a bit trampy.
Awesome.
We wouldn't have known.
Trampy.
Nice.
I've got my Marican t-shirt on.
Right on.
Oh, do you know? Bruce came to New Zealand 2 years ago, and oh my god, that was the best concert I've been to. He is so
He's got a lot
cool.
of energy.
Oh, love me some Bruce. And I'm off to Fleetwood Mac in December.
All right, so bringing us back on topic here for a second. Andrew, I know you've been chomping at the bit to give your 2 cents. So how do you think we can help clients better understand what we need to help them better?
For me, it's about kind of partnering, going into a thing as a kind of a partner with your client, because they know their business really well. They might not realize how well they know it. And I see my job as kind of helping them to realize how good their knowledge is.
That's right.
Because sometimes you learn so many things day after day after day after day, but you forget how much you've learned. And absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, they take it for granted that that everyone sort of knows what they know. And that's actually where we, as an objective resource, provide a valuable service, because we sort of have a more objective point of view. And I always try to take the point of view as, their market. Like, if I'm coming to them for the first time, am I going to understand what they're about in a moment's glance? And let's face it, that's what we're talking about now, right? We have to capture people's attention in just a moment's glance. So it's sort of getting the client outside of their own heads, because they know better than anyone else what they're about and helping them express that in a very,
fresh pair of eyes,
succinct way that's effective.
You come in and you see things from a completely different perspective than your client will have seen it from, because they've maybe been looking at this thing for years and they've stopped seeing it properly because it's just everything that they do is everything that they do, and they maybe have stopped seeing the reasons behind why they did it, why they started doing it, or why things work in a certain way. And coming at it with a fresh pair of eyes, you can help them to see and clarify and maybe rationalize why things are happening the way they are. And then as well, on the other hand, you can see things that they should stop doing or things that they should do differently, or at least help them to see it. Because, I wouldn't even dream of walking into somebody's business and saying you need to stop doing that. But you can maybe kind of help them to see the way they're doing things and where it might need to change.
It's really
absolutely
interesting. It's really interesting. Like when this week, for example, I went. I was in a school and sat down, and the principal was talking to me about how, and the vice principal, about how they had been working for 18 months on their vision and their purpose statements and their values and these kinds of things. And they're really struggling with the language to use for their vision, and it was using school type language, and I think as part of our role as designers and marketers, and because we have these overlapping roles too, is getting the conversation going, is allowing that conversation or instigating a discussion that allows people just to talk about themselves. So and when people start to talk about their business, in my case, school, then they start to use more common language, and language that we can understand and relate to. So and quite often we get so bogged down in the jargon of our business that we forget that the average person out there is not interested in the jargon. They're interested in something they can understand, which is not the jargon. It's common language that helps describe who we are as a business. And so I'm sitting there and they're talking. I'm going, that's amazing. Look, let's bottle that up and use it, because this is language that's important for Google. We talk about the visual, the brand and the strategy and everything. We need to think about the language as part of that, because it's important to Google. For search.
It's also important to the audience so that they
yes.
I recommend that.
Yeah. And that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
The audience.
It's important for Google, but the audience, if Google can understand it, most likely the audience can, but the real thing is, can the audience understand it?
Yeah.
And so audience that has never seen them before understand it. I think that's where businesses lose sight. They think, oh, it's someone who's already familiar with me. And I mean, no, when they land on your website, they have no idea who they are. And they understand who you are easily and simply without having any exposure to your market or your brand.
Right. Well, everybody, I feel like we're just getting started here, but it's time to go. It's now, 1 minute before 6, and Saturday night here in the States. And I'm ready to party, guys. So I'm going to have to go. But, it's great chatting with you all. And Andrew, nice talking to you here in person for the first time. And thank you to everybody else who's been watching and joined us. And I'm thinking about it. I don't know about Friday, but yeah, maybe once a week, something like that. And it'd be good to do a consistent talk like this. And I think there's so much we can talk about. We can hardly just brush the surface with one conversation, as you know. So anyway.
Yeah.
And
yes,
the very fact that Andrew's on here, this is my 4th blab. This is the first time I've met Mary, and I've really enjoyed meeting you guys in video. I've never been, the big hurdle to overcome with people on social media, I think, is video. And I think that Blab has absolutely nailed it when it comes to average people, like nervous people like me who are generally don't really want to get on the camera, but make an absolute fool of themselves on social media, because I love making a fool of myself.
Yeah, it's good to force yourself out of the shell sometimes, just like we tell our clients all the time, right?
So I think this is something that's really cool.